The People's Republic of China, the second largest country by land area, with a population of over 1.3 billion people. With a culture that spans thousands of years of our world history, China is home to one of the earliest and longest lasting civilizations known to mankind. But China hasn't always been open to outside influence. The construction of the Great Wall in the early BCs became a symbol of China as an isolated country, free from foreign trade and interference. That would change in 1972 when a meeting between Chairman Mao Zedong and American President Nixon took place, which would forever change the relationship between our two governments. This historical event would issue the beginning of the Chinese-American open door policy, and this would continue to modern history in 2008 when President Barack Obama and President Hu Jintao agreed to strengthen the bond between our two nations. In the summer of 2012, American-Chinese relations, now at its height, XLED, an Indiana State University-sponsored program, took a class of 15 students on a trip coordinated by 3 professors and their Chinese hosts to visit some of the culturally and historically influential cities and landmarks. Along the way, they would discuss the problems this economically and politically important nation has faced and will be facing in its future.
XLED stands for environmentally and culturally sustainable local economic development. We started putting together these trips that combine faculty from our partners in China and Thailand in particular with faculty from a number of disciplines from Indiana State University.
You know, just learning what you can about China, getting that experience, getting to go there, I think is really important to me, and it's also important for American students, I think, to do this.
I expect to see some of the cultural aspects that I've been looking forward to, like what my aunts told me about, but also how the politics have influenced the policies they have and how those policies have affected the people and the environment as well.
China is going to be a hugely important country. It already is a hugely important country. Our students need to understand that, and they need to understand what's driving China, what are the positive aspects to this, what are some of the negative aspects, and so that's a big part of what we want to do with this trip.
Shanghai is a major financial center of the world and the busiest container port. Shanghai is the largest city by population in China, with over 20 million residents. To accommodate to the growing population, in 1993, the Chinese government began expanding Shanghai into what would now be known as the Pudong New Area, a free market-oriented district.
Foreign nations invested heavily in China during the early part of the 1900s. Now you have China really kind of placing itself in the global economy through its development of this new financial. Well, there's the old financial part of the city and then the new commercial part of the city in Pudong. So, from an environmental perspective, it's kind of taking an area that was probably, periodically flooded, kind of a wetland area, and turning it into an urban environment. So that's a pretty significant change. And of course, whenever you do big development, you have an increase in waste outputs in terms of wastewater, garbage. And these things are all concerns from an environmental perspective because you have more pollution going into the waterways surrounding Shanghai. You add all this commercial activity in this new city center and you're going to attract more and more residents, population grows, people become more affluent, they move out to the new suburbs, right? And then you've got all the problems that you have in cities with traffic and congestion contributing to air quality issues. But in contrast to what you'd see in the United States, it's a pretty special case because it's almost an impossibility it would be for a similar project or a similar new urban development to pop up next to an already established city in the U.S. just because of the kind of sheer planning that goes into it. The political system here is so different. Such a project would be kind of impossible in the United States, I would say.
Even though Shanghai has a reputation as a more modern urban area, it is home to one of the most significant temples of the Pure Land and Chan Buddhist religions, the Jade Buddha Temple.
Chinese, they have maintained the traditions that they believe the Buddha would help them if they burn the incense and pray for them. It's just like everyone going to church in the United States. That is a family type of the praying ceremonies that making everyone in the family well-being, health and happy, and also the wealth too. So they come to here every years by New Year's or the first day of the month or the 15 days of the month. Try to pray for the health and the wellness of the whole family.
Located within the most ancient area of Shanghai is the historic Yu Garden. This extensive Chinese garden was first conceived by the Ming-era governor of Sichuan for his father. Over 400 years old, this beautiful garden is open to the public. Soon, the students and faculty would find themselves sailing down the Xiling Gorge. The river they would travel on is the Yangtze, which is the longest river in Asia and third longest in the world. Before traveling on the river, they would take a tour of the Three Gorges Dam.
Well, the main purpose for building the dam was, of course, flood control. The Yangtze River has, every 10 years or so, flooded pretty badly. And as you saw as we cruised down the river, there were a lot of villages that were close to water. And so when the Yangtze would have one of its 10-year floods, it would cause a great deal of damage. Since the dam has opened, commerce has increased. The tonnage of freight that's gone up and down the river has increased more than tenfold.
Three Gorges Dam has had a lot of impacts, right? It's positive and negative. There's some concerns with the dam capturing silt behind it, although some of those, there's some technical solutions to that, but that would reduce the dam's effectiveness in power generation. And the water quality here continues to go down. Something like 30 billion tons of wastewater get dumped into the Yangtze River every year. That wastewater coming in doesn't move through the system as quickly, which means it can actually start to change the characteristics of the river itself. So it's kind of it's one of the, I think it's been termed the world's largest environmental experiment, right? You shut down a river, right, with this huge dam, and then you just kind of see what happens. So, but the Yangtze River still obviously flows through, and they just have a little bit more control over the flow because of the building of the dam.